make it to where I'm at today.
I've won a few championships, and if you want to come up and take it from me, you're going to have to do all that stuff to get there. You want to dominate every race.
We feel as though we're right on target to go out there and repeat as champions again.
Kyle Busch is going to win in the Granite State.
Kyle Busch wins at Dover.
Round 2 for the Monster Energy Sprint Cup Series is getting underway from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Practice number 1. 90 minutes in front of these drivers and teams that they will have as access to this mile-and-a-half track. As we take a look at the playoff leaderboard, 12 drivers still in the hunt for the championship at season's end. Those 12 drivers, you see the playoff points. Those are the points that they have earned up to this round. That will be the last time that playoff points will be factored in. Now it's positions on the track and stage points that they can win. That will be the determination after the next 3 races to who will move on into the round of 8. But it all starts right here at Charlotte. Alongside Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton, I'm Rick Allen as we get ready for the second mile-and-a-half track of 5 that are a part of the playoffs. Drivers, most are from around the area, closer to this racetrack than any other, so a little more lighthearted. Some, though, will bring their buses and stay right here at the track just to give them the feel of focus and making sure that they can focus on the task at hand, which is the best finish they can possibly get here at Charlotte.
Yeah, it's great staying at home, Rick, but sometimes just keeping your rhythm, doing what you do every week, sometimes that's best. And it's easy to get distracted when you're racing close to home. A lot of friends, a lot of family, and a lot of times sponsors are trying to do you a favor by asking you to do things while you're home. The problem is they all try to do you that same favor, so you end up being very busy these weeks in Charlotte.
And there's just something about the racetrack being here that just in your everyday life you go by it. And you know, I know that this is the type of place that if you have any sort of disappointment or heartbreak, it reminds you every time you drive down Highway 29 right out here in front of the Speedway of what could have been or should have been, versus if you had success, you kind of get to relive those moments and think about how great it was.
Joey Logano first out onto the track in his Pennzoil number 22 Ford, and not a part of the playoffs in 2017. He did get a win at Richmond, but it didn't count towards advancing into the playoffs, so they weren't able to keep up the pace and get into the playoff picture.
So, Jeff, the real question for me is going to be the agenda. You know, the longest practice these cars will have all weekend long, and basically almost an hour and a half long, but evening qualifying. But now a day race, right? So this is all kind of new. This schedule is a little new. Normally you would see day practice for night qualifying and also a night race, Rick, but now that there's a day race, this actually would be some decent time to run race trim. It'll be interesting to see if teams run any race laps or if everybody will be in qualifying trim.
Another thing that's different this year other than just the night is look in the upper groove. So right above Joey Logano, you can see those upper 2 grooves. They have the sticky stuff applied to it, trying to get the upper grooves to work. So you can see a really good shot of it there going into turn 3. See how clear it is? That was put down. It was also done here in the spring. It did not work very well, but that's a night race. And we know that this material needs a little bit of heat in it. So I'm really interested to see during a day race if that upper and middle groove gets worked in and is more effective with that sticky stuff on it.
Well, Rick, you mentioned the 22 of Joey Logano wasn't able to make the playoffs. Well, right behind him, the 3 of Austin Dillon, which is actually putting some nice laps together right here, closed into the rear bumper of the 22. Joey Logano will let him go. He was fortunate enough, he won back here in May. This was the track that he broke through and entered the NASCAR playoffs, but unfortunately after the round of 16, he was one of the cars that were officially eliminated from playoff contention last week at Dover.
Take a look at his day from a week ago. This was the win, actually, from Charlotte earlier, and the 600-mile race versus the 500-mile race that will be contested on Sunday.
And he did a great job there. I mean, I think he went 70 laps on a tank of fuel, way farther than anyone could expect. And no one was sure if it was going to work, but with 2 laps to go, he finally took the lead, led the final 2 laps for that victory.
So now it's up to 12 drivers to determine amongst the 12 who's going to be the champion. They have to get through the second round, this round of 12.
And how does a team like the 3-team respond? You know, RCR did not have a good week last week. Both cars that were in got eliminated. How do they respond? Do they come back with energy? Do they come back with enthusiasm? In some ways, Steve, this team's been behind, and they got in with using fuel strategy, very smart plays by the crew chiefs, but they really hadn't had speed to contend for race
Jeff,
wins.
we've had a car hit the wall off turn 4. It looked like the 88. I was just looking at the top of the board that he was the fastest thing here, and I looked down in 3 and 4, and he was high, 2 lanes up the racetrack.
Smashed the side of it.
And hit the wall hard on the exit of turn 4. I was just looking at timing and scoring.
Straight down stuff, and it's
He was talking about the sticky stuff that you had mentioned there, Jeff. Stuff they put down on the track for grip.
So it looked to me like he got a little high, Jeff, and he hit that patch, so it's right on board with him, and it just goes straight. So.
Oh, wow.
And he's currently the fastest car. He may just go straight right there on the corner exit. He's the fastest car here. His 3rd lap was his fastest lap. He's on top of the board. That car, that contact, that's going to have to be a backup for sure. Wouldn't you think, Jeff?
yeah, I'm fine.
There, you heard him. Yeah, I'm fine. Dave.
Hey guys, one of the interesting comments before drivers went on track, and Jamie McMurray has not actually taken a lap on track. He said, let me know when guys get in that sticky stuff, because I've seen it before where we get into it and we just slide. It doesn't grab the first time. So let me know if that's the case with anyone. I think they've got their case.
Well, and that is what's so hard about it. You know, at Bristol, when this was first used, it has been an evolution. The first time they did it at Bristol, every time somebody went into it, it was no good. Then all of a sudden it fired off, and it was great. You can see Earnhardt Jr. just gets the right sides in it, really, and the car just goes right. But the next time they go to Bristol right along, he knows he's in trouble. There's just nothing he can do. Wheel in it, trying to get it off the wall. But the next time we went to Bristol, the trucks were actually there, and they drove in it immediately, and it immediately fired off. And
right.
So what's the common denominator? I think teams are still trying to figure out how to know when they can actually use it. But you ask if that's a backup car, without a doubt, that car is destroyed.
Well, and the other but the other concern is with the speeds here at Charlotte, Rick, if you get up into that surface and it doesn't work, man, there's no room. You're going to make contact with the wall. So it's going to be hard, Jeff, I think, for drivers to go up there and feel it out. You know, it's going to have to be
Nobody's going to now. I can tell you that. I mean, that's, you know, everybody's watching. All the spotters are watching. And, you know, it's just, you know, who now is going to go out there and try it?
Let's listen into the 88 communications.
I guess I hit that sprayed down stuff, and it's just slick or something. Yeah, you're up just a little bit there. Maybe hit that bump. Got you out of position there. Nothing you can do? No, it hit that sprayed down. Just took off.
He knows exactly what he felt. He knows what a race car, obviously, is supposed to feel like when he's on the throttle making good grip, and all of a sudden you turn the wheel and nothing's there. And he knows either something broke, but he definitely feels like he just got in the PJ1. The car just would not turn, and that's, I don't know how you know that unless you try it. You know what I mean? Unless you try to run into it. And, you know, we've talked about it before, Steve, how, you know, crew chief will say, hey, just go out there and take your time. Well, how do you do that? How do you just take your time?
Dave.
With Dale Jr. now, we heard a little of your radio transmission there, but it sounded like it just happened like that.
Yeah, I got up into that stuff they sprayed down, and it just shot up into the wall. There's no grip on that. I don't know what's going on with that, but everybody better be careful. We just, you know, we're out there running laps, and I put the rights in that stuff, and the car just went in the fence, like a blew right front tire, but so, I don't know. We'll have to get another car out and see how that works out.
I mean, say the car is wrecked. Are you okay?
Yeah, I think I'm fine. The car is junk. And it was actually driving pretty good, but the backup will be just as good. So, just disappointing, man. I mean, I don't know. That stuff ain't that stuff out there on the track, man. It it ain't good right now. I wouldn't touch it.
Well, it's still kind of an unknown quantity you feel like the series is working with and the tracks are working with to try to get it right for you guys?
I don't even know why they sprayed it down. We're going to run this race in the daytime. It ain't like we needed any help getting the top working in. That's for, you know, that was more to help this place at night. But if you can't even run in it without plowing into the fence, what good is it?
Good point. That'll be more analysis after that, guys.
Well, obviously, frustration's high, and how can you blame him? You know, the stuff's put on the racetrack to try to increase the grip, and it actually hurt the grip. So his point about, you know, do we really need it? And that's a valid argument. Like in the daytime, this track tends to widen out anyway. So right there, the right sides are entered, and the car just never turns. But for the most part, the PJ1's been a positive for racetracks. I mean, for the most part, it's been a positive. But obviously today, we see one of the things that doesn't work very well.
So a frustrating start for Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his final start at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And the backup has already been taken off the hauler and brought into the garage stall. So they will go to work getting that ready for maybe some laps still in this first practice. You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series practice from Charlotte Motor Speedway. First race, the second round in the playoffs, and plenty of action right here on NBCSN for the full day. Xfinity Series practice, as well as Monster Energy Series qualifying. Mika Auto Auctions from Chicago mixed in there, as well as the K&N Pro Series East Racing from Dover, and that will be to determine the championship for the K&N Pro Series East. That is a must-watch show if your last name is Burton.
That's a good race.
That'll end up being a very good race.
That's one of the better K&N Pro Series East races.
You suggest we should all tune in?
Sure. That's horrible.
And the drivers are already talking amongst themselves about what just took place with the 88 car. Listen into what the 20 had to say.
Oh, man. 88 just pounded the wall. You get up in that crap on exit and just skating ring. Yeah, that's where he kind of let it wash out, you know, on Charlotte 4, where the wall narrows up on exits, where he finally ended up pounding it.
Hey guys, Chase Elliott joins the crowd as well. Says, hey, wow, don't get up in that. Wow, again, were his words, than 24.
Yeah, so you heard Matt Kenseth, the spotter, giving that information, and that was really good information. And I happened to be looking in turns 3 and 4, and Chase Elliott was doing his best to stay off the wall. He got in that stuff in the middle of the corner and was chasing it big time. So you can see he enters, see how free he is on corner entry. Then right here, you know, he's still having trouble. But listen, what's interesting to me is we're watching cars go down the back straightaway with all 4 tires in it, making a big arc in the corner entry, and that's not seeming to bother them on corner entry. Not sure why it would bother you on corner, wouldn't bother you on corner entry, and it would on corner exit, unless it's just the way the car is loaded differently, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the question. Or, I mean, it could be something simple as track temperature in that one area. Everyone's forced to run through it. So you see right here, Joey Logano, as he goes by the 77, he's going to go through that stuff right there, turns out of it, and goes to the bottom. So I don't know, Jeff, maybe because everyone's forced to run in it, it's cleaner, it's warmer. I'm not exactly sure, because even on exit right there, they're still kind of getting their right sides into it a little bit.
Yeah. So see right there, they're running in it.
Yeah, they run in it right on the entry to the corner.
See right here.
And again, the sticky substance has been put up in the really almost the 3rd groove on the racetrack, 2nd to 3rd groove, to try to give a little more, well, grip to these drivers and give them other options about running a little bit higher on the racetrack.
So there you go. So there's the groove, and Joey Logano is going to come into the shot. So look at what he's doing. He has all 4 tires in it, and then he crosses out of it, and that's not bothering them on corner entry. Now the car is going relatively straight, but you can see that they turn through it and get to the bottom. So that's what confuses me a little bit. If it was that slick, then how can they be running it? But clearly, when cars get in it, they're having trouble. Another car into the wall.
That was a 38 of David Reagan. Now, that's more of a normal Charlotte, though, kind of like running out of real estate. What surprised me so much about the 88 is just the abrupt angle in which it hit. Like, it lost all grip. It'd be interesting to see if it was just the surface on the racetrack or if perhaps there was another issue.
Hey, guys, can I ask a question? So, Jeff, I know in both cases you're going fast whether you're in race trim or qualifying trim, but Kyle Busch has not been on the track yet. He's in qualifying trim, about to go out there and bust off a Q lap. This is information that, what would that do to a driver, you know? And I think Martin may be on a qualifying run as well.
Well, Dave, I think that the advantage is that in qualifying trim, you're probably going to run the bottom anyway. So you're really not even going to think about running the top, and you're probably going to have good grip, and you're going to pitch the car off on corner exit just a little bit anyway. The question is, what do they do coming to get the green? So many times we see a car leave pit road, go down the back straightaway, and they'll run against the wall in 3 and 4 to get as much speed as they can at the start-finish line. I'm not doing that today. I'm going to run the bottom. My get-up to speed lap coming to get the green is going to be on the bottom, just like my speed lap is, because I just saw Dale Jr. wreck running in it.
So it's the first time that Charlotte Motor Speedway has tried the sticky stuff in that third lane or second to third groove up there. We're going to try something new at Charlotte as well. We're welcoming back from the Daytona and Bristol races. Otto Bolden is joining us once again. Otto, a multiple-time Olympian, and has won so many medals that he can't even carry them around on his own. He has to keep them at the bank back in Trinidad and Tobago. Isn't that right, Otto?
Yeah, something like that. Good to be back with you guys. If I spend any more time in Charlotte, though, they're probably going to make me get a driver's license. I was here last week at Joe Gibbs Racing, spending some time with the number 20, Matt Kenseth, and his pit crew. And I was just absolutely fascinated by just how much work goes in to putting on a really, really good pit crew.
Come straight out and then press straight out like you're hitting lug nuts.
Hold on, straight towards you.
Yeah.
Lug nut practice.
So when
That's a muscle I've never used before.
So when you're hitting lug nuts, you have to be sturdy through your core and make all the energy go forward so the gun hits lug nuts.
I would never do this with my upper body, but we have done this with legs.
So there's huge benefits to human performance, right? Because all the machines do the work. The guns take the lug nuts off, the jacks get the car up. So if we can get these guys from their knees to their feet to a sprint as quick as possible, that's 2 3/10, but 2 3/10 is a ton in a pit stop.
That's the stuff that I obsess about.
So if you can take a little bit of your world and teach it, there's huge gains in that.
The first time I walked in here, I thought, these guys have to become hybrids. Yeah.
I'll give him a math problem, right? And if the sum is an odd number, he catches it with his left. If the sum is an even number,
nice.
Right. 5 minus 2, 13. 37. All right, last one. We always like to end on this one. Ready? 6 times 6.
Oh. Nice. So, guys, with all the components that go into putting on a great race and having a great team, it is very likely that the most important thing in the entire team is something like this, a tennis ball, because I saw these guys doing a drill during these practices, and something as small as this might be the most significant thing, because there's a drill for reaction. We know that these races can be won and lost in fractions of a second. Reaction drills with this is probably the thing that I took away from it. I might actually take that back to the track and field world with my kids.
So, Otto, what I think is interesting is I've obviously seen a lot of that pit crew training, but I think it also carries over to drivers. You know, as an Olympian and as an athlete, you know what it's like to work under pressure. Now imagine these race car drivers 3 or 4 hours under pressure, but their mind has to stay sharp because a lot of their natural ability is really reaction in driving a race car. So I think it goes along those same sort of lines, right? Testing the brain, why it is under kind of distress, trying to keep the lungs full of air and the heart pumping blood.
Yeah, and I asked them about that because I asked them, I said, okay, what's the difference between the regular season and now when there's the playoffs? And to a man, everybody said, listen, we're not trying to do anything different or special. What got us here is what we're trying to do all the way until Homestead. We're trying to be as good as we can every day, and that's the way it's been since day one.
Otto, you referenced the fact that if you spend any more time here in Charlotte, you would have to get a driver's license. Does that mean that you got your driver's license back from the Bristol incident that took place in your pickup truck?
The Bristol incident. I thought we weren't gonna bring that up, Rick. Yeah, I did happen to get a speeding ticket in Bristol, but I consider it a badge of honor because I understand it in the booth. we have quite a few speeding tickets represented among you three.
That is very accurate.
No, it's not. That's not accurate. But Otto, listen, good news for you. Kyle Petty and Rutledge, they're both Uber drivers now.
Oh, wow,
so,
that's
yeah,
great.
You can request them. I don't know that you really want to do that, but they're actually doing Uber rides now.
Yeah, especially not Kyle. I've heard about his driving.
We're riding along now with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Look at him work his hands. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I think a lot of people that are a part of the playoffs were hoping that he didn't make it into the second round because, and we've got another red flag situation that has brought out the red flag. They're saying fluid in turn 3. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. makes the second round of the playoffs. Well, the next race after this Charlotte race is Talladega, and he has been phenomenal at the restrictor plate races this year.
This has been the strength of Roush Fenway Racing. Jimmy Finnan's led this super speedway program and done such a good job. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. made a late race move to get the lead at Talladega away from Kyle Busch, and then did everything he needed to do to block. Such a good job of driving to get himself into the playoffs. But he didn't just stop there. He went on and won Daytona as well. So this is the strength of this team. The question is it reasonable to think that one team can win 3 of 4 super speedway races? That's a tall feat. That's a lot to ask of anyone.
Well, Jeff, and that's the reason why I really think for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the vault was open last week at Dover. And what I mean by that is gamble often, gamble early like they did at Dover. Brian Patty on top of the pit box made a very calculated gamble to stay on the racetrack early in that race during a green flag pit cycle. The race started rough. Handling issues up the racetrack. The 48 goes by, even loses a lap to leader Martin Truex Jr. But right here, while still on the racetrack during green flag cycles, Jeffrey Earnhardt spins out. The caution comes out, saving the 17, giving him spectacular track position. He scored those points at the end of the stage. They tried it later in the race as well. While it didn't help them, it didn't hurt them either. So ultimately, that gamble and those points after stage 1 is what moved Ricky Stenhouse forward and eliminated Ryan Newman. So I think that's the key, Jeff. Don't hang your hat on Talladega. We can talk about it and show it, but the simple fact is go out there and try to gamble when other teams haven't thought about it yet to try to get those points at the end of the stages.
Well, it's been since 1990. A guy named Dale Earnhardt won 3 restricted plate races in a row. So to ask Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to do that, that's just too big of a feat in my opinion. Now, he can do it, but if they come here and they have the speed that they've had at all the other mile and a halves, why wouldn't you go ahead and say, you know what, I don't care if it hurts my finish. I'm going to play a strategy that may get me stage points. That's why they're here. That strategy is the only reason they're here. They did not outrun the 3. They did not outrun the 31. They outsmarted them, and they were willing to outgamble.
Right now, they're going to try to out-tune them if they can. Ricky's first laps on the track met with this feedback. I don't feel compliant with the racetrack. No front grip, and it lands really tight. The one thing that Brian Patty, the crew chief, did get a positive on was the entry to the corner. Ricky said, yep, the entry is stable for now.
So they'll work on the 17 and try to get it a little more to the liking of driver 17, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Fastest up to this point, Denny Hamlin. It's been a tough week since we were last with you in Dover. Of course, the incident that took place in Vegas, and then on Monday, Hall of Fame inductee Robert Yates passed away after a valiant battle against cancer. But everyone's minds are definitely on the recovery and the well wishes to the families and everyone affected in Vegas after that incident took place. For more, let's go to Kelly Stavist.
And Rick, as you know, there's such a strong connection between Las Vegas and NASCAR. You're looking at the car there of Kurt Busch and his brother Kyle, both natives of Las Vegas. You see the Vegas Strong sticker that he's put on the 41 car. Several other drivers also have the small round Pray for Vegas sticker, including Eric Jones in the 77 and Clint Boyer. I saw it on his car as well. Well, a group of these drivers, not just here in the Cup Garage, Xfinity drivers, Spencer Gallagher, also from Las Vegas, along with Brendan Gong, another Vegas native. They've banded together to try to raise some funds for the victims of the shooting. If you go to driversforvegas.com, you can buy stickers, t-shirts, or just simply make a donation. It's kind of the way of these NASCAR drivers from the Vegas area, just to do their part and give back. I talked to Kurt while he was sitting in the 41 before practice started. He has a Vegas Strong t-shirt on underneath his fire suit. If we get a chance to talk to him today, we might get a look at that. Obviously, heavy hearts. I've made Vegas my home for the past several years. It's been a very difficult week. It hasn't quite been the city that is vibrant as it normally is, but we will return to normalcy. And the greatest part is just how much everyone has been thinking and praying for the city and giving back in huge ways. And just here's another example of it here in the NASCAR garage.
Yeah, so many people affected, and it's been a very hot topic over the past week, and obviously our thoughts going out to those from Vegas. Catch all the action of NASCAR on NBC with the NBC Sports app. You can get closer with alternate camera angles, driver stats, and track information anytime, anywhere. A lot to talk about that's coming up from Charlotte Motor Speedway. You see just off of turn 4 and a little kink that will be put into the Roval, which will be used here next year. But when they did the adjustments to some of the track, they put in synthetic turf, and so a lot of drivers have called for either concrete or something other than grass. They put in synthetic turf here to try to help out.
The idea is to create a safer environment, so laying that turf down rather than grass, give a smooth, clean surface for the cars to slide across if they get in that turf. And then to slow them down, they put tons and tons, 300,000 pounds of sand went into this synthetic turf to act as a chemical, not a chemical, but a product to slow the cars down as they're sliding through it. So it's actually glued to the racetrack. 1,100 gallons of glue, glued to the racetrack. So what a great project. And it's interesting, this started Kevin Harvick and this company called Fields that puts in these synthetic turf fields. They do NFL fields, they do baseball fields.
Right.
Kevin Harvick's foundation that builds fields for needy children around the country.
Yep.
They know each other through that, and he's like, hey, I got something. They went to Marcus Smith. Marcus said, hey, let's try it. And so this is the first try at building something that can work better to make a safer environment for the drivers.
Flash back to 2011 and Carl Edwards, and look at this. It tore the car up because catching on that grass, and that was one of the biggest concerns, is that it was the same level. There's another one, Dale Earnhardt Jr. That one caught the front of the car and completely tore it up. Steve, you're grimacing as you look at that.
He's crying. He's got tears in his eyes.
And again, earlier this year.
Oh, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, basically, think of these teams keep the cars so low to the ground, fractions of an inch off the asphalt, that anything that's not as smooth as the grass is going to damage the car, or excuse me, smooth as the pavement. And that's what this really is to try to give you the look and the feel of that grass without damaging the car.
I remember Kansas last year. Remember all the damage done at Kansas. So see the 41 just plows into that grass and just does all kinds of damage in the front of the car. Xfinity Series, 5 car going around in Custer. Look at the damage. It destroyed the front of the car. End of the day, could have been a harmless spin. Brendan Gaughan, same thing. A spin that normally you would just keep going from. The front end's destroyed on the race car.
And then
Almirola, yep, he got spun and knocked the front of his car off. So just a continuation of the problems, and rightfully so. The drivers have been complaining. Hey, look, we need to fix this, and hopefully this is a step in the right direction.
And there's a lot of other applications I can see at racetracks that we travel all year long. Not as much for the damage. While I understand the damage can be improved, I've always made the argument, man, we don't want to see you spinning through the grass anyway. The idea is to race on the asphalt. But I think Kyle Busch has been a big proponent for safety. As one who took probably one of the hardest hits that any of us have seen, that ended up going through the grass and hitting that wall at Daytona. So I think it's not just for damage to the race cars, but perhaps could be a safer application as well.
And Steve, when we come back here next year and cars are driving into this chicane, I have a feeling that grass is going to get tested.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're going to come off a turn, what is currently turn 4. You're going to have to make this left-hand turn, then a right, then a left. I mean, how fast are you going to be going? You're going to be smoking. That's going to be a passing zone. In the grandstands, look where they are. Fans are going to be able to sit and watch. That's going to be quite a show. So that grass will get severely tested next year for sure.
Otto.
But when we come back here in just under a year, I am looking forward to what is just normally just coming off of turn 15. Now it will be turn 16, 17, and 18, as Charlotte will be the first course to be a road course in the playoffs. So I am always fascinated by how NASCAR is just quick to innovate in their series. I come from a sport where things change a lot slower. You know, we're still stuck in the Chariots of Fire era sometimes.
But a great song. And we'll take a look here and show you, this is the inner workings right now. There's some trucks, maybe some campers even parked on what will be the road course. There is a look from up above at what they will do. All but about 400 feet of the 1.5 mile original track is going to be used. And now we have an issue for the 2 of Brad Keselowski. Actually, he took advantage of going through part of the road course.
The right side of that car is heavily damaged. Looks a lot like the 88's damage. Maybe not quite as bad. I'll give him a brush. The 88 was more of a contact. That was a brush. It looked heavier from the front, but from the side view, it's not quite as bad. You see, now he starts heading up the racetrack, still in the normal gripped area. Then he gets up to the dark area, and he gets loose. His car doesn't go anywhere near straight like the 88. His is the opposite.
He was having trouble well before he got there.
Yeah,
you saw the car moving around.
It's a good job.
It looked like he was catching it down at the bottom of the racetrack, and then when he got up to the sticky stuff, it was less than what he was expecting.
Yeah, I said it was heavily damaged because I saw some marks on the right front tire, and normally you have to smash the fender in to get to it. But if you see right here, look at this.
Wow. What a save.
I didn't know drifting was allowed in NASCAR. Holy moly. But that's, you know, right there, I mean, he never wants it. Look at that.
Wow.
So I only think they better just look at their steering components. I think the body and the chassis is fine, but that right front tire itself hit the wall a little bit when he had it corrected. But what a save, because it should have been way more damage than that.
And Brad Keselowski, the first one in official track usage.
I'm guessing
use the chicane.
No one is going to look at that and go, that's the way you should enter that turn.
And he came
He's
in the
already
garage.
telling them, look, we're going to have to change the springs when we go back in.
Came in the garage backwards, too.
Wow. So a tough little ride there, but a good test for the Roval. Sunday night is football night. Travis Kelce and the undefeated Chiefs head to Houston for a matchup with J.J. Watt and the Texans. Mike Tirico and Dan Patrick. They host Football Night in America, Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern only on NBC. We were touching on the fact that this racetrack will not be used as a 1.5 mile quad oval or tri-oval. It will be used as a roval, and this is a virtual trip around the road course here at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
What's very interesting is that, you know, trying to create passing zones and where can you pass. This infield section of this road course is very tight. I'd say a little bit wider than Sonoma, not as wide as Watkins Glen, but it's much slower than the rest of the racetracks.
Well, it's slower, but from a fan perspective, what I think is very interesting as we sit up here in the booth overlooking the racetrack, from the stands, you're going to be able to see an entire road course. I can't think of another road course that you can see the cars all the way around it. So when you buy a seat and you come here to watch this race, you're going to be able to see the chicane here on the backstretch, the high bank sections of 3 and 4, the chicane that we saw Brad use coming to the start-finish line. You know, you're going to be able to see the entire facility.
And Rick, I'm a traditionalist. When I first heard this idea, I'm like, this is nuts. Like, Charlotte is, well, you know, it's a 1.5 miles.
It's the most historic 1.5 miles.
I mean, what are we doing? And then I came over here and actually made laps.
Let's be honest, and you made Jeff Benke about throw up.
No. I was the passenger. Yeah, that was green after we had taken about 6 laps, and Jeff's like, well, I'm just going to go one more. And I said, no, I think we've gone enough.
So you know, after driving it and having the pleasure of making you vomit, I was convinced that this is a good idea. I mean, I know it's crazy. I know it's
things up.
I know it's different. I know it's crazy. I understand all that, but we've heard fans say we want another road course. Road course racing is so much fun. You have an opportunity to have a road course inside the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So what's the harm in trying it? And you know, by adding this chicane on the front straightaway, the turn into turn 1, there's 2 distinct passing zones directly in front of the grandstands. It's going to shake things up, and it's going to be in the playoffs. So I know it's far from traditional, but in a time where we're trying to find a way to have more good races, more exciting races, I think it's worth the gamble.
Sure, they're taking a look at it. Kelly.
Hey, Rick, before that last break, we saw that moment with the 2, and certainly a close call for Chase earlier. We saw the 88. It's getting everyone's attention. Here's what the 24 said about the 2's incident.
I get a wreck off of 4 now, the 2 car. Yeah, that's going to be a common thing today, I think. Get in that juice, you're in trouble. At 10-4.
And then just before he came off the track, I heard Ricky Stenhouse say, wow, it is super slick up there. So this sticky stuff's getting everyone's attention.
And think about it, a week ago, Chase Elliott so close to getting his first win. I was looking at the statistics. Chase Elliott has now had, I believe it's 5 second place finishes in his career without getting a win. Guess how many his dad had before he got his first win?
Yeah, I got a little hint. Someone told me it was 8.
He got 8.
But I think that's Charlotte key for Chase Elliott. The key is that he has to look last week as a great run. Look at the positives they had. And that's going to be very hard to do, right? That's going to be tough to look at that glass half full because he was so close to getting that breakthrough win. But he has to look at the positives of that race, Jeff.
So look at what happened last week. So Chase Elliott is being run down by Kyle Busch. In front of him is the 31 of Ryan Newman. So what happened? So right here you see Chase Elliott, how close he is to the 31. Car length in between them. The 18, remember, he's on the outside. He's making lap time. As they go through the middle of the corner, the 24 actually gains on the 31. He's in the gas, rolling the middle. So right here, now the 24 has narrowed that gap. And you would think that's a good thing, but it's not, because the 18 has clean air. There's nothing impeding his forward motion. The 24 loses ground to the 31 and the 18 because he had no air on his car because Ryan Newman was in front of him. Now right here, Chase Elliott chose to give Kyle Busch the outside. The reason he did that, I'm believing, is because he thought he was best on the outside. He did not want Kyle Busch to cross him over. But a lot of people say, well, how do you get that run? Well, it was because the 31 was in front of him. There was no air on the front of Chase Elliott. Now, to be clear, Ryan Newman did nothing wrong. Ryan Newman could not afford to give up a lap. What if the caution comes out down the back straightaway, and now he isn't on the lead lap? He can't gain any spots. He's going to miss the playoffs. Ryan Newman was there to race for himself and his team. Ryan Newman did nothing wrong. He had to do everything in his power to stay in the lead lap.
That's the driver, Chase Elliott, talking now with his crew chief as the guys from Goodyear continue to work on those tires. The top speed so far today, Ryan Newman, over 191 mile an hour. Tomorrow night, Formula One is live on NBCSN. Lewis Hamilton leads the way. The final quarter of the F1 season begins at the iconic Figure 8 Suzuka Circuit, Japanese Grand Prix. Race coverage begins at 12:30 a.m. Eastern on NBCSN. And I guess when you'd say coming home, you would have to say Jimmy Johnson is home. This racetrack has been incredibly good for him, which he's been good at quite a few racetracks, but it seems as though Charlotte Motor Speedway just seems to fit for this team, the 48, Chad Knaus and Jimmy Johnson.
Well, I think coming off a good run last week as well. They did not win the race, and I think that was the expectation going to Dover for all of us because he's been so good there. But look at here, look at his results here. 8 Charlotte wins. Look at the laps led, the finishes in the top 3. I mean, this racetrack is really close to Dover in his success level, but also I think the tracks are very similar in how you drive them and the setup. So no surprise that he's had so much success at both. And the question for he and both Chase Elliott is, can they take what they did last week and bring it this week? And I think they need to. I think that, they need to prove to themselves and the field that they can contend for this championship.
Well, you have to have, Ryan Blaney has had what I call a ho-hum playoff so far. Hasn't done anything great, hasn't done anything awful, has done what he needs to do to advance. I really think the key for this young man moving forward in the playoffs is going to sound silly, but avoid hitting stuff early. And he hits cars coming to pit road. He's in the wrong place on the wrong at some restarts. And there haven't been any major accidents. He hasn't wrecked anyone. I'm talking dents on the fenders. We've seen her left front fender smashed in. Small things that the team recovers, but it's just now they're one step behind. He's so fast. The team knows how to put a good car out there. They know how to call a very good race. Jeremy Bullens does a nice job on top of the pit box. They just need to avoid putting themselves a little behind at the start of these races.
The other goal that's out there for Ryan Blaney is he wants to get win number 100 for the Wood brothers. They have 99 wins, and Ryan trying to get that 100th win. Denny Hamlin rolling out onto pit road. He was definitely vocal over this last week. A lot of people have been talking about the interview that he did, relating just the way that money is distributed in NASCAR. He had referenced that thinks the team should be a little better compensated than they are.
Well, it was taken as if Denny Hamlin was screaming that he wasn't making enough money, and that's, I don't think he did a very good job of articulating what he was trying to say. And in conversations that we've all had with him since, he made very clear to us that he wasn't saying that he thought he should make more money. He was saying that, hey, look, these are athletes. We're all athletes. We should make money like other, the other athletes make in this world. And that, listen, he believes that more of the purse should be, more of the TV fund should be going to the race teams to help the race teams in difficult times, and that money would trickle down to crew members to all parts. So he wasn't just talking about him. That's what it was perceived at, because anytime a high-paid athlete talks about making more money, that's what the only thing people are going to hear. But that's not exactly what he was saying.
And Denny Hamlin currently second fastest here at Charlotte for a lap. And again, that's important because qualifying is going to take place a little bit later this afternoon and evening. So everyone looking on the one lap speed that they can find around this mile and a half. Kelly.
Back down here in the garage, the one of Jamie McMurray. Now here's the driver that advanced to the second round of the playoffs for the first time. And when I talked to his crew chief, Matt McCall, last week, they really felt like if they could get through that first round, that there were better tracks ahead for them. Starting right here at Charlotte, a place that Jamie has won a couple of times. Talladega, he has 2 wins there as well. So they've definitely had some confidence. Sounded like Jamie just made a qualifying run, but he said he was really loose coming to the green. He had lowered the track bar, but it wasn't helping much. Just too loose everywhere, he said. Loose on entry, loose on landing. And one other little note that he had, Jeff, that sounds like it could just be sort of annoying. He asked the team if they had done anything different with the tear-offs. Said that it was blurry out there today.
Yeah, Kelly, that is a pain. Like, they put so many tear-offs on the front windshield that you do it inside, and it all looks fine. The minute you take it outside, now you're looking through this blurry windshield and everything's distorted. And the only remedy right now, Kelly, is just to start pulling tear-offs off, and just eventually you can get enough of them off to where you take that blurriness out. But sometimes you get down to where you only have 1 or 2 left, and now you're in trouble for the race.
When I look at Jamie McMurray in the one car, crew chief Matt McCall, I think this is the team that playoff points are going to start to become very valuable for the other teams, and their lack of playoff points are going to hurt. You look at the left side of the screen, that playoff leaderboard, they're -7 to the 17 car. Well, that puts them, a good ways behind, say, Kevin Harvick or Jimmy Johnson or Brad Keselowski. When you start talking 15 or 20 points, that's 20 positions over 3 races. So while I thought in the first round, the round of 16, they had the ability to outrun some cars on that list, when you look at the round of 12 and who's in this round, man, who are you going to go outrun by 20 positions? I mean, you're not saying they have to have problems, but you're going to have to really excel. We're going to start talking about top 5 runs in the stages and the race finishes.
Well, look at Matt Kenseth. He's 5 points back entering just to get to that cutoff point. Right. So, every position matters. Every stage point matters. You can see Matt Kenseth doesn't have the car buried right on the bottom of the racetrack. Car did not look very stable. He's only 21st fastest. So this day so far has not gotten off very good for Matt Kenseth and his team. That moved him up to 14th. So a little bit of gain, but that car just does not look very good.
Guy on the left side of the screen has been impressive all season long. And a lot of times it has been in regard to mile and a halves that they have said he's the best. Can anyone be better than Martin Truex Jr. on mile and a half track? Well, this year they haven't. Already 4 wins for Martin Truex Jr. The next best won by 3 drivers. Stage wins, yep, again, dominant. Martin Truex Jr. 5, the next best 3, like just Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney. And then average finish, he is 4 positions better than the next best, Kyle Larson, on mile and a half tracks this season.
Rick, I think this is just an example of Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pearn examining the schedule and saying, hey, look, guys, mile and a halves, that's where the meat of the schedule is. That's where the meat of the playoffs is. That's where the championship will be awarded in Miami. And look at the last 18 races. I mean, the numbers have gone up tremendously. He's led more laps in the last 18 than the first 110. And, well, a whole lot of those laps are right here when he dominated the 600 that one year. I mean, this is the type of team that I think has tremendous firepower because they can go out and win any week. So not only do they have a lead with playoff points, but if they trip up, say they have a little run of bad luck, maybe they have an engine failure, they have a little bit of points in the bank and the firepower to go win at every track we go to.
Martin Truex Jr. coming into the playoffs, the favorite. He definitely stamped that once again at Chicagoland when he won there to start off the playoffs. Get NASCAR coverage when you're on the go with NASCAR Mobile. The official app of NASCAR puts race coverage and live in-car cameras right at your fingertips. You can even listen to drivers and teams discuss race strategy. Download for free at NASCAR.com/mobile.
Rick, we were watching the 18 car on the racetrack.
He's not sure which direction to go now.
Well, I thought he was on a qualifying run. He enters turn 3, and this is off turn 4. He just turns left. I mean, he's running 100 and something miles an hour on pit road entry, and got a little warning from NASCAR that said, hey, you got to back down your speed a little bit. I think they're a little more lenient when there's no other cars on pit road. There's no one lining up for qualifying. But, man, he got my attention. I don't know where he was going. I thought he was trying to join Brad Keselowski as the second guy to officially use the Roval, but he turned a little too early.
What would be the purpose of trying to get to pit road that fast? There's no time ever that you would ever enter pit road going that fast.
I have no idea what he was doing to try to do that.
Maybe he was thinking of all-star practice when they used to.
I bet he was frustrated about something the car didn't do that he was hoping it would do, and he came to pit road as quick as possible.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, but he ran a 28.40, his fastest lap, and that lap was a 28.51, so it was only about a 10th off. So I was saying the exact same thing, and he was mad, you know what I mean, and just kind of flipped out there for a moment. But looking at lap time, I don't think that's what it was.
He's got momentum. There's no question about that. And does he now take over as the favorite as we continue on with these playoffs? The last 2 races, it's been Kyle Busch who's been able to capture the checkered flag. It started this little streak he's on, started back in Loudon, and then continued on to Dover. Was able to pass Chase Elliott late in the race, 2 laps to go. Took the lead and the checkered flag, and so now he has momentum. He's coming back to a racetrack. The one thing that would be the only thing holding him back is history as far as results at this track, because he's never won here. This is the one track that's left of the active tracks that we go to that he has not won on.
But Ricky doesn't need to win. He doesn't need to win Sunday afternoon. He just needs to run okay. Top 10. His playoff points allow him to do that. He's second in the points. He has 3,041. He's well up inside the top 2. He has a big lead over the guys down around the bubble. I think Kyle Busch needs to come here and maybe accept the fact that the 78 has a betting history here, and the 78 outruns him. Just try to stay close. Now, that's not how he's going to approach. He's going to approach it trying to win, but it is a long ways from a must-win. It really just needs to be a ho-hum sort of single-digit day.
I don't think that's in his mindset, though. I don't think that's. I think Kyle Busch will come every race. I think Kyle Busch looks at this point lead as an opportunity to be aggressive.
Yeah.
You know, I think Kyle Busch is going to attack this racetrack. He needs to gain some points on Martin Truex Jr. Assuming they both move into the next round, he needs to gain some points. He needs to gain. Remember, you got Talladega coming up. You got a potential terrible race at Talladega where other people can gain points. So I think that Kyle Busch and his team, I think that their mission is to keep the pressure on.
Well, it's the second time in the playoffs that a driver has been called to the NASCAR hauler while the practice is going on. Yes, Kyle Busch just got called to the NASCAR hauler. That's where he's headed. Just 20 minutes remain in this Monster Energy Cup Series practice from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Make sure to tune in this coming week for NASCAR America, 5 o'clock on weekdays, and a busy schedule. On Wednesday, it'll be Danica Patrick that will join the group at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Always a great sit down with these drivers to get a little more personal, in-depth as far as what these drivers do, where they've come from, how they got to where they are. Again, that's every day next week, 5 o'clock on NASCAR America. Dave.
And a lot of drivers, Rick, along the way actually repaired their own race cars on their way up the NASCAR ladder. That's usually not the case these days, though, in the garage here. We speak of that because the 2-car of Brad Keselowski is in the garage. They are repairing the one that tapped the wall. And Brad walked around with a hammer in his hand a little bit. I think he handed it to somebody because, Jeff Burton, driver guilt repairs are usually not that welcome by the crew chief.
I love that phrase, Dave. Driver guilt repairs. That's well said, though. And really, the team doesn't want you working on their race car. Just go away, come back when it gets fixed.
Guilt repairs. Well,
we all think that we all, just to be clear, we all think that we could do the job of the people that we couldn't, but we typically think that we could. And so you grab a hammer or a wrench or something, and they're really in the back of their mind, they're like, just go, just get out of here. But
you're handing it to somebody who knows what they're doing, who's a part of the pit crew, which, by the way, that's a good transition to talk about the pit crew all-stars.
Well, we just heard how basically the driver can do nothing more than drive from our friend Jeff Burton. And that, luckily for them, is all they need to do because they are supported by great women, men and women through the entire garage area. The first one, Kenyatta Houston, the front tire changer on the one. I've known Kenyatta for a long time. Super athletic football player, made a nice transition to pit crew. Then we have Kevin White, the tire specialist for the 72 TriStar Motorsports. Kevin has been in the garage area a long time. He enjoys that job, has a good time. We know the tires and how important they possibly are to the setup of the race car. And then we have Will Boutin, the tire specialist for the 34 of Front Row Motorsports. So a great group of pit crew all-stars this week, Dave.
And Steve, we focus now on Kevin White, who is the Pittsville, Maryland native, and as you mentioned, been in the garage area a long time. And one of the reasons why he's a pit crew all-star nominee this week is because his career is a tribute to his dad, who got him started in racing. Grew up racing near their home at Delaware International Speedway, about 20 minutes from where he lived. And the whole family race. I think we have a picture of the entire family in their race cars. You had Sparky and Bunky and Kevin and Dad Dave and Tim. They all race, and so that's how Kevin got started. And everybody knew Dave, his dad, because he was around a lot. When he was, Kevin was with Ricky Rudd, Dave was there. He retired from the Maryland Police Force after 30 years and actually bought into a family restaurant. So when Dave came around, it wasn't all about cars, it was about food. And last week at Dover, they really missed him because Dave passed away on September 7th this year. Kevin had a chance to take his old number 16 around the speedway in a tribute to his dad, who he loved so much. And he was one of those guys who, of course, wouldn't come and tell you that he was sick and that he was going to not have long on this earth. But when Kevin found out, grabbed a couple of mason jars of their favorite clear liquid and went up to Maryland and sat on the porch with his dad and shared old stories. Got the last good time with his dad that he could before he died. Kevin White, one of the good guys in the garage area and one of the guys who has a dad to thank for a career in racing.
And a pit crew all-star this weekend. A lot of hard work, dedication gets put into these teams by everyone involved. Again, top speeds as we continue to talk about qualifying later. Kyle Larson now the fastest. NASCAR playoff doubleheader from Charlotte Xfinity Series tomorrow on NBCSN. Playoff elimination race. That coverage begins at 3 p.m. Eastern. Sunday, Monster Energy Cup Series playoffs continue with the first race of the round of 12. Coverage starting at 2 p.m. That is on NBC. Kevin Harvick bringing the Jimmy John's Ford back into the garage area to the attention of the crew.
Rick, and I think when you look at Kevin Harvick and the opportunity to advance in the playoff, it comes down to points. Every stage, every race, every chance that points are paid, he needs to find himself up inside the top 10. We saw last week with the decision being made over just 2 points, who would advance and who would not. And I think that's the point, is let's go back now. Race 1 of the round of 12, you have to start counting points now, Jeff.
It starts tonight, too. Kevin Harvick and this team, they've sat on the pole the last 2 races here at Charlotte. So for this team, I think anything less than a pole is disappointing.
Kyle Larson, been talking about second place finishes. Well, Kyle Larson used to be the master of second place. Now he's improved that to being top 3 as far as contenders for the championship.
Yeah, as he jumps to the top of the timing charts, or well, continues up at the top of the timing charts, but that lap would put him there as well, Jeff. That's both now has the first and the second fastest laps of practice, and I think that's really his key, right? Is when is his turn? When is he going to beat the 78 and the 18 and go to victory lane? I think he has enough points. He's had enough consistency. He's had enough speed to move on through the playoffs. I think it's the same for the round of 12. But to be considered one of the favorites to go to Miami to try to unseat the 18 and the 78, I think it's time to see some wins.
Otto.
Guys, I was wondering why I felt so comfortable down here at Goodyear Tires, and I went, oh, that's right. It's the winged foot in the middle of their logo. So I'm down here. They're getting some of these tires balanced. But my question is for Steve. Steve, what's the thing that influences your tire choice the most? I know we have longer courses and shorter courses. It's pretty hot today. I know that you've been to the Goodyear factory. What are the things that are going to influence tire choice this weekend in Charlotte?
Well, you know, Otto, that's one of the most challenging things Goodyear has to face every weekend is what tire combination they're going to bring for these either Cup or Xfinity cars to run on, because they have to make that decision so far out to get enough tires manufactured for the event. So they'll perhaps tire test if the facility's been changed or if there's something new they want to test. But Jeff, you know, they have to make the decision assuming it's going to be standard weather, assuming the track is going to be in its normal condition. But like this weekend for Charlotte, it's a little bit abnormally warm, plus a day race on Sunday. So it's kind of a little bit of guesswork, strategic guesswork, but guesswork still the same for Goodyear.
Yeah, and that day race, I think, is the huge implication in that decision. You just think about the track temp is so much higher during the day versus night, and the recent history here has been night races. So I just personally, I'm a big fan of moving this race to the daytime. The track's going to widen out. The cars are going to slide around more. They're going to be harder to drive. When you make maximum grip at night and you get that track temp down, the bottom of the racetrack is going to be the fastest way because it's the shortest way around the racetrack. But when that track temp comes up and drivers have to start looking, then you're going to run different grooves. And you're going to see more action on the racetrack. So I'm a big fan of moving this race to the day.
Well, and as a crew chief, I'm a big fan because at night it really comes down to having a really good strategy. You don't see a lot of overtaking. The car that gets out front normally can dominate the race. Where during the day, I think you have the opportunity to build a fast race car and overcome perhaps not the best strategy. I think of veterans like Matt Kenseth, as you see a little wiggle into turn 3 right there. He has so much experience that as that day race wears on and as the grooves, as you mentioned, widen out, you may need a little setup change during a pit stop. And I think he has that experience to communicate that to the pit box. Say, hey, guys, I really want to run up the racetrack. To do that, I need X, Y, and Z. So I look as a guy like him perhaps as being one of the guys that can run towards the front.
And they, in my eyes, at 20 team, they are just a few mistakes away from being able to win races. It seems like every race, something happens. One little mistake, one bad decision is keeping them out of victory lane. You would think a longer race would be hard to clean that up, but I think in many ways, I know this sounds silly, you actually focus a little bit more when you have a longer race.
Kelly.
Rick, there's the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and it's been kind of a common theme the last few weeks as we've listened into the radio during practice. Ricky just really struggling to get the balance and the handling right on this car. And it's no different again today. His biggest issue just saying when the car lands, there's just no turn. It shoves the nose. He says no matter how he turns the wheel. At one point, his crew chief, Brian Patty, he says there's just no speed in it. And his crew chief saying, hey, let's just work on the balance. Don't worry about the speed. They've been making some changes. I think they went out for a qualifying run. And again, he just says there's just no grip. It lands really harshly. So a lot of work to be done still on the 17.
And the caution has come out. A red flag has been displayed for the 18 of Kyle Busch. Looks like another one into the wall.
Well, again, way high on corner exit and just lost grip. That looked very similar to what we saw with Dale Jr. Not quite as severe of a turn, but see right there, the car just has no grip. And now it's just, he can't get the car to turn. So think about the cars we've had in the wall. I mean, turn 4, Dale Jr., a very experienced race car driver, had success at this racetrack. Look right there, that's the beginning of the PJ1, the sticky stuff on the racetrack. He gets his right sides in it as he's accelerating off the corner. And now, Steve, the car just doesn't turn. Big impact.
Yeah, big impact. That one goes very straight, heavy damage. He has to go to a backup car. David Reagan in the 38. I'll call that more of a brush. It's still a pretty big impact for the guy in the seat, but I think that car is repairable. And then Chase Elliott with a heck of a save to not make contact with the wall.
And also a great save out of the 2.
Yeah, this was unbelievable to stay in a throttle like that. Look at this shot. Listen.
Keselowski saved it, got out of the wall, or stayed away from the wall. At least not as much damage as we saw just recently out of the 18. And it was quite a few laps earlier, almost maybe 45 minutes ago, when Kyle Busch had this to say about what the surface was like.
The juice is slime. I felt it on every time I touched it that time. So, yeah, it's really bad. It's because they didn't use the tire dragging over it in order to burn it in and get rubber down. It's just juice, literally.
So that's Kyle Busch's opinion on the surface. So what he meant by the tire dragging is this surface was prepped, it was sprayed with that sticky stuff, and that's really all that was done. And he has the opinion that more had to be done, or prep work had to be done with the tire dragging. I don't know if I have an opinion one way or the other. I don't know enough about the sticky substance and how it reacts with asphalt. As you mentioned, Rick, that was much earlier, and now you see him later in practice get up into that sticky component that isn't very sticky, apparently. It seems to be a little low on grip, and the 18 makes pretty heavy contact. And now the crew's looking at it to try to determine, should we fix this car or go to the backup?
So they will evaluate what the 18 looks like, and if they have to go to a backup. As you look at the top speeds, just 6 minutes remaining in this first practice from Charlotte. Track is back to green, and we were just talking about the cars that had made contact with the wall. The first one that had made contact with the wall was Dale Earnhardt Jr., and that's a backup car, and he's making his way back out onto the track. Dave.
Yeah, he got it all started this afternoon, didn't he, in a negative way, Rick? You follow back cam down the backstretch. This will be the second run in the backup car. The first one was very, very loose. In fact, did not even have enough time to work the interior track bar to try to get it right. So second run here, we'll see how he does. Dale Jr. looks for a nice ending to the day after a troubled start.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. means so much to this area, and especially his hometown, which is just a few miles away from this racetrack. And so his hometown fans had a few things to say about this being his last season.
Good afternoon. We're here today to confirm the news you received this morning that I've decided to make this season my last as a NASCAR Cup driver.
It's almost indescribable what Dale Jr. means to this area.
He is this town. His name goes beyond words in this town.
I taught Dale Jr. in high school. He was shy, quiet, kind of slouched down in his seat.
What's the question, dude?
Just an average kid, but he just always had that drive to do the same thing his father did.
When I would go by his desk, there would be a sheet of notebook paper and he's drawing a car.
He earned it. The way he came up through Saturday night stock cars, through back then the Busch Series.
I watched him win his first race, and I was hooked.
I fell in love with him. I was like, you're it. You're the real thing. You're genuine.
I don't think there's anybody here that didn't want to see that.
He's always there for the fans.
I met him 5 or 6 years ago at Talladega.
He let me hang out with them the entire day. It was the coolest experience I ever had.
He's an awesome guy.
Dale, thank you. Thank you for
all the memories that you've given us.
Thank you for being true to who you were, the things you did for your fans, the things you did for your friends.
For proving to people that you weren't just Dale Sr.'s son.
For over 2 decades of providing the fans with fantastic racing.
Thank you so much, Junior, for everything that you've done for us.
I am really going to miss him, yeah. I think the whole NASCAR world is going to miss him.
It's really going to be sad that we won't get to see you on Saturday and Sunday.
NASCAR's sure gonna miss you.
I am, my whole family is.
You've made everybody proud here.
But remember, you will be able to see him on Saturdays and Sundays because he's a part of the NBC broadcast team starting in 2018. So we welcome Dale Earnhardt Jr. to our team after he leaves the Hendrick team, which he's been very successful at.
I can attest firsthand how passionate Dale Jr.'s fan base is about him, his career on and off the racetrack. I mean, you travel around with him, whether it's in his hometown at Mooresville, where we've spent a bunch of time together, really anywhere in the country. I mean, he moves the needle because I think everyone just relates. He's goes out there, his fans love him, he loves to talk to him, and that's really every conversation I've had with him about his final year. That's what he keeps bringing it back to, Jeff, is he wants it to be about the fan base that has supported him, not really about him, not really about his career, but about his fans. And I think it's just one more example of how kind of high he holds his fan base and the level of people he tries to impress.
And I think that's the cool part about him joining us next year, is that he's going to be able to bring that perspective coming right off the racetrack. And he has a perspective that's pretty unique. His father, one of the greatest drivers ever. He obviously a successful race car driver, has big opinions about the sport. It's going to be fun to have him on board.
His entire life has been spent going from racetrack to racetrack, not only with his father, but also now as a very successful Monster Energy Cup Series driver. As you take a look at the playoff leaderboard and where they ended up in this practice, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. again, of the 12 that are still fighting for a championship, slowest of those 12. Brad Keselowski was 20th on that list. The quickest was Kyle Larson. And Xfinity Series practice, that's coming up, so make sure to keep it right here. Marty Snyder, DJ, and Steve Letarte will take you through.